Yeah, no, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Tony Rose Deanna, and TR for short, they, them pronouns. I'm a former middle school ELA teacher and an instructional coach. And now I get to do community engagement for Modern Classrooms project. Carlos, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Carlos Canella. I'm originally from New York City, but I teach in Florida now. I've been teaching for, I've been in education for a little bit over 12 years. And while I've been focusing mostly on ELA, I've been implementing the modern classroom model for we've known each other, what, 3 years now? 2.5, 3 years now, TR? Yeah. So
Yeah.
really familiar and absolutely love it, which is why I proselytize it as much as I.
Yeah, so in the chat, I did drop the do now, and you see a QR code there too. It kind of mirrors our model as well. You're going to notice that the next 29 minutes, Carlos and I are probably going to talk for 5 to 10 minutes, and then the rest is exploration time because we want you to have the time to explore the resources that Modern Classroom provides for free. So, with that being said, again, if you could do the do now, it's just a way for you to check in. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know what you want to get out of this session so that Carlos and I can better prepare for future sessions. So the QR code is right there. The do now is in the chat as well. And I'll give you all about like a minute to fill that in. Let me know if it doesn't work or if you have any questions or, problems with it. But our title is Your Pace, Your Learning, Mastering Content with Modern Classrooms Project. So we're going to go ahead and get started as you're filling in your do now. That's totally okay because we're just going to do table of contents and some other stuff before we dive into the real stuff, right? So the table of contents, we're going to start out as what is Modern Classrooms Project, just to kind of give you an overall view of what the model is and what it looks like. You also have resources and examples, exploration, and then our closing questions. So all right, totally fine, Mickey. Thank you for trying. As you all know, as educators, again, I was an educator for 10 years before I became an instructional coach. We've seen this big problem in the classroom, right? The one size fits all model of education really fails to reach our diverse learners, and then it burns us out as educators as well. And so we have this big group of students where one group where it's too easy, another group is absent, they can't catch up, and then you have students who are just lost, who are there because they have to be there. And so then it leads to us as teachers, as educators, feeling like, wow, we are failing our students because we can't reach every single student. And so Modern Classrooms Project has come in to develop a new, I want to say a new-ish approach, because you all have heard of the three pillars before, the words that were the pillars that I'm going to be talking about. But the biggest difference is that it's the how piece. We come in to show you how to implement the model and not necessarily what to implement, but the how part. And I think that's like the biggest gap in a lot of our teaching and learning experiences. So, our instructional model, if you weren't aware, I know some of us are, we have a partnership with Edpuzzle. So, we have a lot of folks who are aware of our model based because of Edpuzzle and vice versa, right? And so, we have blended instruction, self paced structure, and mastery based learning. Now, these are the three pillars that we tend to always look at. And this just means for me, the way I tell people all the time is that it is a way for me to disrupt the traditional way of teaching and learning. I am no longer in front of the students teaching for about 20 to 30 minutes, getting frustrated because they're not listening to me, getting interrupted because they want to go use the restroom and play around. And then just ultimately getting overwhelmed because there were so many different personalities happening, and the whole class lecture is actually not going the way that I want it to go. And so these are the three pillars that we have created for our instructional model. Now, the biggest thing, though, that I do want to say is that these are three huge pillars. They're not easy. You're not just going to be able to implement it tomorrow, right? So, what I would highly recommend is to start small. You want to pick one from the three pillars. If you already got blended learning, don't do the blended learning, right? Focus on self pacing. From my own experience and all the educators that I've worked with, self pacing was really difficult. It is challenging because you are relinquishing a lot of your control and trusting your students to do the thing that is being asked, right? But the thing is, the tasks are way more intentional, way more meaningful, and there's not really a lot of busy work anymore. It is really a must do, should do, aspire to do classification so that students can take the time that they need to really understand and grasp the content and the skills that they're learning in your class. So what I would say is start small. If you're like, you know what, my school is doing standards-based grading, I'm going to focus on mastery-based learning, right? Or you know what, we're doing project-based learning as well, right? So let me think about self-pacing and how project-based learning kind of marries together, right? So, with that being said, we have the blended instruction where you create an instructional video using Edpuzzle and the slides you already have. The biggest thing that I want to say too with videos, with instructional videos, is that you want to plan everything out. The video is actually like the last 2 minutes of what you're doing, right? Like you want to have your slides done. If you want to have talking points, have that done. It doesn't have to be the prettiest slides either. Kids actually really love simple slides. They don't mind it because it is your personality that's shining through, right? So you plan, and then record. And if you mess up recording, that's totally fine. My kids absolutely loved it when I messed up because it again shows that we are humans. We're not perfect. We're going to mess up. My dog's going to show up. My dog's going to bark at my face. My sister's going to interrupt me. And that's just real life. Now, with the self-paced structure, again, thinking about Edpuzzle, you can use the Edpuzzle to assign the videos to your students with a suggested deadline and check for understanding questions. So you're no longer waiting for a class of 25 to 30 students asking, okay, a check for understanding question and only calling on 4 students. With Edpuzzle, you can actually get every single student answering the check for understanding questions to see if they truly understand and are grasping the content and the skills that they're learning. And then you have your mastery based learning, right? Get students to create their own videos explaining their mastery checks. Yo, these videos are so much fun to watch because students, I always tell students, hey, the more you talk about it, the more that you can be about it, baby. Okay. If you can show your peers how to do it, then that means you truly mastered it, right? And there's a difference between showing and teaching. And so we talk about that as well. But my students loved creating videos and me even going into classrooms with first graders, with second graders who say, I love making videos to showcase what I learned. Those are the words that I want to hear all the time, right? Like it is now a focus on what did I learn? How can I show what I learned? And then being able to be creative and creating a video to do that is even more exciting. So, with that being said, Carlos, do you want to add in anything that I said before I move into the exploration piece?
No, I think you covered the most important parts, especially the idea of leaning into mistakes, right? It shouldn't be perfect. It's not going to be perfect initially. But one of the beautiful parts about this model is that you iterate over time and it only gets better and better. And then you can use these resources again. So your planning long term is actually shorter than it is in the immediate. At the beginning, there's a bit of a lot of front load work that you do, but it saves you much more in the long term because of how you can use it, and it becomes tweaks and fixes, smaller fixes later down the road that you are grateful for as it opens up opportunities for you to focus more on things like the small group instruction, the tier two, tier three type of work that is going to lead to the bigger changes for the students who are struggling.
And you made me think about the backwards planning piece too. Y'all, I'd be lying and I'd be telling people, yo, I backwards plan all the time. And then I had to do self-pacing and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I was not backwards planning. So it's a huge wake-up call for me as well. It really changed the trajectory of my teaching and learning philosophy and my mindset as well when I started implementing this model. Because I thought I was doing the best thing, right? But it actually was not the best thing. So the backwards planning is so real in this structure, in this learning, this instructional design. Another thing too that I wanted to call out is that it's not just that the students are being held accountable for their work because they have the self-pacing, they know how many lessons there are, how many summative assessments, how to scaffold all of those things. It also held me as an educator accountable because I had to provide real-time feedback. I had to give feedback right away. And all of the essays, because I was in English, right? It couldn't just sit on my desk for 2 weeks to 2 months. I had to actually read, respond, give feedback, and then students now had that time to revise in classroom and no longer like outside of the class. Because that was what I always did was like revise outside of class, thinking that they didn't have anything else happening outside of the classroom, right? So there's so many things that this model really opens up. So, and there's more too. Like, y'all, when I realized when I aced my self pacing, with my students, I was gone all the time. Okay. I was going to conferences. I was going to go and observe my teachers, the other teachers I work with, because self pacing students just knew how to access the information and learning continued with or without me. This is also true for students who are absent. I had a student, I love this story. He was at the dentist's office. He would be like, Ms. D, I was at the dentist and I didn't, I was waiting in the waiting room and I just watched a video that you have so I wouldn't fall back behind, right? So there's a lot more responsibility and accountability, and students really own up to that because now they know, oh, I can learn this wherever. It doesn't have to be in the four walls of the school in the classroom. So, with that being said, keeping in mind of timing, we have a lot of resources for you. And this is the perfect time now for you all to take a look at some of the resources that we have. And just so that you can be in on the things, right? Because one of the things that I learned as an educator, I hated professional development where they would say, we got to do all of these things and then no time to explore or create. You mean to tell me I have to do that on my own time? I don't got that. So for the next 10 minutes, yeah, 10 minutes is good, right, Carlos? We're making time. Okay. Yeah, the
It's good. It
next
gives
10
them
minutes.
time to come back and talk. Yeah. So
Beautiful, beautiful. Next 10 minutes, explore any of the resources that we provided for you in the chat. My instructional video is on there so you can see. I had long hair, it's a whole vibe. And then you'll see an example from Carlos as well. So, highly recommend you checking this out. And we'll do that for the next 10 minutes. We're going to mute ourselves. I'm going to turn my camera off and I'm going to give you this time to really truly dive into these resources with no interruptions.
and if you have a question about anything, I'll be looking at the chat as well. So feel free to ask questions.
Hey team, I know that there's some clarification that need to happen in the chat. We are off mute right now because we're doing exploration on your own. So I'm going to just drop the links again, explore on your own. We're going to come back in 5, 6 minutes. All right, y'all. It is 22 minutes after the hour. Um, Now I'd be curious. I know that a lot of you had questions in the chat, so thank you so much for putting that in. Stormy gave us a shout out of like, wow, it's really great to have time to explore and to start kind of thinking about what we could do or what I could start implementing in my own classroom, right? One thing that I do want to point out is that the podcast, we have shortcasts. This month, we're solely focusing on student voices. So if you take time to listen to the 16-minute shortcast, you'll hear from students on how this model has impacted their own teaching and learning. The free course has the free course about all three pillars. Again, you don't have to do all three pillars. Focus on the ones that may be the weakest one for you, or maybe the strength, right? Whichever one. And then within that free course, you have your MCPU, which also has so many different contents being covered. And this is where Carlos was saying in the chat, where you get lots of resources, examples, you hear from teachers all over the nation, different grade levels. And then also seeing their lesson plan template, their classroom walkthroughs, like you really get to see it for visual learners like myself. We have the Facebook group of over 20 with 20,000 educators who are constantly sharing all of their stuff. My instructional video, I see that we had a couple of messages about my instructional video. That was so much fun to create. And that was actually my Unit 0 introduction. So instead of me talking about myself the entire time, I was just like, here's a picture, make inferences based on what you see in the picture. That's fun. That's getting students to get to know you as an educator, as well as start practicing those skills that they're going to utilize the entire school year. I taught sixth grade. And then we have Carlos's Padlet with all the AI resources that he has collected to help with mastery-based learning. So highly recommend just checking through that. All of these things are free. You don't have to pay for it at all. And I love a free 99 resource, okay? I will gladly take it. And then it's also different types of learning. There's listening, there's watching, there's doing. So we really wanted to make sure that we are creating lots of entryways for teachers to come into our space and be a part of our community. So, do we have any questions? Carlos, we have like 6 minutes for you to share whatever you'd like, talk about what you saw in the chat.
Yeah, so Heather, you're talking about project-based learning and how this could work. One of the things that I did, I had these headphone splitters so students could actually listen to the videos together and pause them if they needed to, check with each other, bounce ideas and questions off of each other, and collaborate with regards to all of the things except for the mastery check. But the projects that I did were usually towards the end of the unit. So after they had gone through the allotted time for the mastery checks, I had a project at the end, and there they could work together. And sometimes they could choose making a podcast, a comic book. There was a range of different projects that I would have them, but that would be towards the end of the unit itself. So there are ways within the model for students to collaborate. You can also have some students who are further along turn back and support students who are struggling. So like students who are speeding through because they're just like, they've got it, right? We always have those. You can work with them so that they can support students who are struggling a bit more. And there's a lot of different ways to get them to work together, even within a project-based model. So yeah, that's something that I've done. But typically the biggest projects were towards the end after the mastery checks had been done for the learning throughout the unit.
Thank you, Lisa, for just sharing about your district. It really is fascinating because you actually don't even have to talk to the teacher. You can talk to any student in the classroom and ask them what they're learning, and they're able to show you exactly what they're learning, why they need to learn it, and how they're going to show that they actually learned it. So it's really, really dope being able to do that. And then, of course, with like observations as well, you don't feel interrupted, right? As an educator, whenever people would come in, I would be like, okay, but like I'm teaching right now, so I don't need you to come in and talk to me. But with a self-paced learning environment, I was able to have as many conversations as I needed to have with whatever adult stakeholder is in the classroom with me. Yes, love that. Love it, love it, love it. And then Chad, you're asking what kind of headphones? I'm guessing it's just like any kind of headphones you want, honestly. And whatever the school allows for students to have. Because I know that for my school, we could not have Bluetooth earphones, headphones. So it had to be plugged in. And what I would say with the headphones too is have a class set. because you will always have students who are like, I don't have it. Well, cool. You can use one of these, and then putting that up somewhere that you can quickly see and check that every set of headphones have come back to you. So don't put it in a bucket where you have to count it all the time. I would have a hanging hook on the wall and only put 8 headphones up. Don't put all of it. I would just say 8 headphones, because you at least have 5 students who are going to say they don't have headphones. Um, and then Tracy, I think that's how you say your name. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering it, but Carlos, it says, can you expound on large language models, which is LLM? That is all about AI. So 30 seconds,
Yeah.
Carlos, because it's a
So
lot.
the super abridged version, when I was first starting, it felt like a lot. So there were a lot of things I was confused about, and I would actually turn to some of the large language models like mastery-based learning, right? I didn't have that in my school, so I would work with large language models to help me with that and tweaking little ideas. The Facebook group is actually amazing for us as a sounding board for ideas. But when you're just like stuck on yourself, you need an answer now, you're doing your planning. I use large language models as a means of supporting me throughout it, and it saved me a ton of time. So using the one that best fits your style, I found ChatGPT tends to be better with creativity. Gemini is getting really strong at a little bit of everything, and like professional writing and stuff. Claude is really powerful. So just using the one that you think is going to be the best, but using that to help build out ideas can be really powerful and time saving.
Thank you. And you all know AI is like taking over, which is wild and beautiful at the same time. It does not mean that this is going to replace us at all. I think it's just making sure that we double down and be able to do all the things that we need to do as an educator, right? So with that being said, y'all, here are links to our social media. I know some of you had asked for my email address, but if you slide into those DMs, it'll be me responding. So definitely check out our social media because that's where a lot of our updates are, a lot of our examples, and all of that good stuff.